Knowing that you want change is great, and knowing precisely what you want to change is even better. But you may find yourself stumped at how to actually create that change. If you don't know how you're going to achieve something, the chances are you probably aren't going to achieve it. Now, if that sounds like a bummer, look at it from this perspective. Being able to notice what steps will lead to failure informs you of the pitfalls lying ahead. And if you've got a good lay of the land, that can help you to make better decisions. Knowledge is power, after all. Depending on what you set your goal as, how to achieve it is going to differ, but there are a number of tips and tricks that may help you become more productive and making fewer mistakes whilst on your journey of self-improvement. I've made plenty of mistakes myself, and with those mistakes have come useful lessons. So today I'm going to share with you 3 things that have been fundamental in helping me change for the better. Tip 1 is identifying rituals. Whilst rituals may seem like an unusual word to use, and may even bring to imagination a strange cult-like setting, each and every one of us have ritualistic, even robotic behavior. That is to say, there's a certain pattern in the way that we do things, in certain settings. Many, if not all of these patterns persist subconsciously, without us being aware of them at all, and some we realize after the fact. But by taking conscious, deliberate, and repeated action, we can guide ourselves out of some of those rituals and into more productive ones. Just by having this knowledge, you may become more aware of what you're doing, and begin to connect the dots in your behavior that you were previously blind to. The potential for change in identifying these rituals may be limitless, as we always have room for improvement. So if you haven't ventured into this realm before, then give it a go. Even small changes can have a big impact. Start with your morning rituals. Do you hit the snooze button on your alarm or get right up? Do you check through some emails or browse Facebook? Do you need to do those things? Does it help to do those things? Identify what you do in the morning, as it's an important step for structuring your day. And if you feel groggy or that you got up too late, then identify what rituals occur in the leading hours before you sleep. I found that if I established a connection between waking up and going to the gym, then I'd be more concerned about being ready for bed earlier so that I wasn't tired in the morning. For me, that meant turning off electronics, brushing my teeth, taking a short journal of how successful I was or wasn't that day, getting into bed, and maybe reading for a set time. Try something like this. Keep it up for a week and see if you feel any better. I know I did. And hold yourself accountable here, because just as you may have to go to work to earn money, there are other things that you have to do to make improvements. This may seem obvious, but if you really want to change your life, the biggest component in your life is you. So don't spend precious time waiting for others to get their act together. If you want change, you have to do things differently from how you have been. And that brings me to tip 2, planning. There's a saying which often comes to mind. Failure to plan is planning to fail. And if we don't have a plan of what we're going to do, we tend to make poor decisions. If we haven't developed positive rituals, then we're likely to revert to rituals that don't benefit us long term. So it helps to write down what you're going to be doing or not doing. If you've tried this before and not had success with it, don't worry. That's the case for a lot of people, and I'm one of them. We're challenging potentially years of hardwiring that informs us of what to do and when. So when a different, more rigid structure is imposed, it makes sense that we're not going to stick to it 100% of the time. We might not even manage 50% of the time at first. But if we wrote a list of 10 things to do and got 1 done, that's a 10% improvement where we might have otherwise got nothing done without a plan. That's actually a huge markup. Obviously it's short of the mark, and that's something to bear in mind, but that can inform your future planning. It is useful information. You got 1 thing done. Okay, then maybe next time you don't write a list of 10. Maybe that list can be condensed to 5 more important things. The thing is, when you're starting out on a venture that you've not been through before, you might not understand how long things take. And so whilst you think ahead of time, oh, I'll get this all done easily, the reality may be completely different. But that's okay. It helps inform future planning. Just take it one step at a time and push on if you find those roadblocks. They're not impossible. They're just a test before you level up. Take the test, learn, and grow. And then it's time for a new plan. I suggest setting aside 15 minutes each morning to create your plan for the day. List some things you do or don't want to do, and at the end of the day, check in with yourself to see how it went and how you feel. Keep a log of this information. It's important to note how you feel because how we feel influences what we do. So we want to create an environment that better encourages our development. Speaking of our environment, tip 3 is engineering your environment. This idea bleeds into addressing rituals and planning, as you may find that in certain rooms or at certain times, you feel more likely to do one thing than the other. I've used my computer to play video games, watch movies and shows, talk to friends. I even met my wife on a gaming website about 7 years ago. So what does that say to me? Well, it says that I use my computer for leisure, for fun, escapism, enjoyment. And all of a sudden I'm expecting myself to use it as a productive machine. Not so fast, bucko. Our brains like to compartmentalize information into neat boxes, simple to understand and navigate. So if my computer has been a tool for enjoyment, how do I change that to being a tool for work? There are so many distractions there. Friends wanting to talk. Facebook and YouTube are far too easy to click on. And video games have always been a part of my life. If they're staring me in the face, how am I going to get anything done? The answer is by changing my environment. If using a laptop, you may be able to move that to another room, starting off with a fresh environment that you use only for work. If you're going to use it for anything non-work related, go to another room entirely before you do. It can also help to create a new user account with only the programs you're going to be working on. If your goal has nothing to do with computers, then changing your environment can still help. Replace my analogy of digital things taking my attention with what is taking yours. If the room you're in is usually used for leisure, see if you can find another room. If it's friends or family that are taking your attention, try to plan ahead some time just for yourself. If it's those goodies that you keep in the cupboard that are slowing the progress of changing your body, keep them further away, lock them in a box, or stop buying them altogether. Whatever it is, there are going to be some things that draw you away from the progress you want. So first, identify what they are, and then make it more difficult for those things to affect you. That could be by creating a physical distance between yourself and the distraction, or by making that distraction harder to engage in the first place. On the other hand, if you want to engage in an activity more frequently, make it as simple as possible to do. Want to work out in the morning? Put aside some gym clothes before you go to sleep so that they immediately take your focus when you wake. Keep the goal close, keep it in mind, and lastly, keep it simple. Whatever it is that you want to do, there are a number of ways to help define how you get there. Chances are I'll dedicate videos to specific methods of improving productivity in the future. But in the meantime, if you're having a problem figuring out how to define rituals, make a plan, or change your environment, then leave me a comment and I will find you a solution. If you prefer to talk, then jump in a call with me for an hour via the link in the description box below. We can talk on Skype, Zoom, Discord, or even just on the phone. You'll have my dedicated ear and we'll work towards figuring out how to get you from where you are to where you want to be. As always, thanks for listening. I'll see you in the third and final video of this series of Manual to Change, where I'll talk about defining your why.